You know, the world can feel pretty chaotic, right? Headlines are just flying at us from all over the place. But what happens if we pause and just look at a single 12-hour window? What if I told you that all these seemingly random events, from the Middle East to Eastern Europe all the way to outer space, are actually telling one single, incredibly tense story? Let's connect the dots.
And boom, the story ignites right here. With this one statement from President Trump, any hope that the war with Iran might be winding down just went right out the window. This isn't de-escalation. Nope. This is a clear signal that the conflict is about to enter a new and way more dangerous final phase. And you better believe the markets reacted instantly.
So let's trace the fallout from that one statement. The first shockwaves aren't political, they're physical, and they're economic. And they all start in one of the most important stretches of water on the entire planet.
At the very heart of all this is the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, this narrow channel is basically the artery for a huge chunk of the world's oil supply. And as we zoom in from a global view right down to the sea level, you can see the problem crystal clear. The U.S. is now committed to weeks more of military action right on its shores. This vital waterway, it's now an active conflict zone. And the result is that global trade is holding its breath, stocks are sinking, and the price of energy is absolutely skyrocketing.
Yeah, and that spike? It is not just some number on a trader screen in New York or London. No way. This is a massive economic shockwave, and it hits everybody, everywhere. It means it costs more to ship anything, to manufacture goods, to heat your home, and yep, to fill up your car. This is the immediate, tangible price of the conflict, and it's being felt across the globe just hours after that announcement.
So this energy shock quickly turns into a very specific and frankly a very feared economic threat, stagflation, especially for a country like Japan. Officials there are already sounding the alarm. So what is it? Well, think of it as the economy's worst nightmare. The war disrupts energy, which drives up prices. That's the inflation part, for inflation. But at the same time, those crazy high costs choke off economic growth. And that's the stag part, for stagnation. It's the worst of both worlds, all triggered by a conflict thousands of miles away.
And the crisis just keeps on building. It's jumping from the economy straight into diplomacy. The pressure from the Iran war isn't just hammering global markets. It's actually starting to crack the very foundations of the most powerful military alliance in history, NATO.
Okay, so here is the fundamental disagreement, the crack right down the middle of the alliance. On one side, the U.S. sees the conflict and demands its allies get in the fight, telling them to send their warships to the Iranian coast. But key allies, especially France, are pushing back, and they are pushing back hard. They're arguing that NATO's entire purpose is to defend Europe and the North Atlantic, not to go on offensive missions in the Persian Gulf. I mean, this is not some minor squabble. This is a debate about the very soul of the alliance.
And, well, when the diplomacy fails, the language gets ugly. President Trump didn't just disagree with his allies, he openly insulted them with this phrase right here, paper tigers. He's basically calling them weak, all talk and no action, just because they won't fall in line.
Calling your allies paper tigers, well, it paints a pretty clear picture, doesn't it? This isn't just tough talk. It's a direct challenge to the alliance's credibility. It creates this perception of weakness, of division, that, adversaries are watching. It forces everyone to ask a really dangerous question. Is this powerful alliance really as strong as it looks on paper?
And beneath all that political name-calling, these numbers, they really get to the heart of the disagreement. The U.S. Navy is just overwhelmingly dominant. And that military reality cuts both ways. If you're looking at it from the American perspective, you're thinking, we're carrying the whole burden. But from a European point of view, you see this exact same imbalance and you think, this is precisely why we are hesitant to get dragged into a U.S.-led operation so far outside of our own backyard. This data right here, it basically defines the entire strategic argument.
And here's the thing. While the entire Western alliance is consumed by this internal crisis, the rest of the world is not just sitting on the sidelines. The distraction created by the Iran conflict and the NATO rift, well, it's creating opportunities and new dangers on other active fronts all across Eurasia.
So now our focus shifts, and we're zooming into eastern Ukraine. In just the last 12 hours, Russia's defense ministry made a huge announcement. They're claiming to have seized the last bit of the Luhansk region. If true, it would give them full control for the first time since 2022. On paper, that's a really significant military achievement.
But, and this is a huge but, war is never that simple. At the exact same time Russia was making its victory claim, Ukraine confirmed its own major success, a long-range drone strike that slammed into a Russian missile components plant deep inside Russia. So you've got this incredible contrast. While one side claims a big victory on the ground, the other proves it can still reach out and cripple the very war machine that supplies that front. The conflict is incredibly fluid and a long way from over.
And this constant simmering tension is forcing other nations to make big moves. Take a look at this number. For the first time since 2009, Taiwan's defense budget is about to cross that 3% of GDP line, hitting a record 3.32%. In a world that feels like it's escalating, nations are placing their bets. And for Taiwan, that bet is a historic investment in its own defense.
All right, let's just take a breath. After all of that tension, all the conflict, the division, the economic anxiety, we are going to deliberately shift our focus. Because in the very same 12-hour window, something else happened. Something that doesn't point to division at all, but to a completely different and maybe more hopeful kind of human endeavor.
NASA just successfully launched the Artemis II mission. And just look at this crew. You've got 4 pioneers, including the first woman, the first person of color, and the first Canadian to ever travel into deep space. As we speak, they are on a 10-day journey to fly around the far side of the moon and then come home. It is a stunning moment of pure exploration and collaboration, and it's happening at the exact same time as all the conflicts we've been tracking.
And that leaves us with this one final thought. In a single, chaotic 12-hour cycle, we have watched humanity draw battle lines on maps, fight over borders, and fracture its oldest alliances. But we've also watched humanity reach beyond that map entirely, working together to touch the cosmos. So the question is, which one of these stories will define us? In a world so full of division, is our shared future really going to be written on a map, or is it written in the stars?